right. Well, welcome everybody. We got a lot of new faces for this meeting and want to welcome everybody to the San Diego Premiere Pro user group. For you new folks, I'm Eric Addison. I'm co-manager, and DJ Summit is here as well. He is the co-manager as well. I usually handle stuff on the Premiere side. DJ is the After Effects guru, so he will be working you through all that stuff tonight. I'm trying to think if we have any announcements to make, but I don't know that we do. So, I mean, I know there's a new version of Premiere that came out, 22.2. So if you haven't downloaded that, you should. It has Remix, which we covered last month's meeting. So yeah, if you are excited to have Remix as part of your workflow, you need to go download 22.2, which is the latest version. However, I will warn you that there is, if you use Red Giant Universe, which is something that I use, it is still not working in this version of Premiere. Apparently, Red Giant reached out to me to let me know that they are working on a fix. I think, DJ, you said you made a comment about it being...
Yeah, I cynically blamed Maxon because I spent like 10 years working with Maxon products and they were great. But then as soon as they became like the man and like corporately bought Red Giant, both went to crap. So yeah.
Yeah, the transition from Red Giant to Maxon Red Giant has not been the smoothest at all. But hey, you know, it is what it is. So, but anyway, yeah, so 22.2 is out in Premiere. I don't think there was any other updates. I don't think After Effects got another update. I think it was just Premiere that got updated on this go round, if I'm not mistaken.
My After Effects updated, but that could have just been because I didn't update it when I was supposed to. So.
Oh, okay. There you go. So, okay, well, there you have it. All right, so I don't think there's anything else. Oh, I will say that we do have a couple giveaways if you stick around to the end of the meeting. 3 of the Premiere extensions that I'm going to be showing, the company that makes those was very gracious to provide free copies for folks, and so DJ will whip up his random number generator. Wasn't that just Google that you use?
Something like that. I think I've used a different one every time.
Okay.
It's a random number generator.
I thought it was your son who just kind of picked numbers out of a hat.
First time we did it, we would have been limited to like 8. So, you know, we wanted to...
That's all we need right now. An 8 is good.
If he was doing it now, I would recommend not choosing 15. He doesn't like that one too well.
Okay. Got it.
That would be good. We should do that one time. Have one of our kids, DJ, just pull names out of a hat and see how that goes. For those of you who don't know, DJ and I have kids that are 4 and almost 5 in my case, respectively. So, so yeah, that would be entertaining to say the least. So, okay, well, let's go ahead and get things started here. So I'm going to kick things off and show a few things in Premiere, and then DJ is going to take over and show some cool stuff in After Effects. And then we will kind of open it up to Q&A. And if you have any Q&A or questions during the presentation, feel free to just post them in the chat pod. You know, or if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and just sort of ask me a question or ask DJ a question, go ahead and do that. But chat pod's probably the best, and we'll try to address them as we go. So let me share my screen here, and I will see if I can do this. Without, let's see here, I'm going to do share just screen, and then I know I have to do, sorry folks, I never get this right on the first time. So let's see. Yes, where's the sound thing? I always forget the sound thing. Not that I really need it, but just in case. Advanced sharing options. Okay, well, maybe it's here. Share sound. There we go. Okay. All right. We are all set. So let's go into Premiere. Okay. Let me minimize this. Okay. So a couple things I'm going to talk about tonight that are AI related. So I'm going to talk about a few things that are AI related inside Premiere, kind of going with the AI theme that we talked about and promoted for the meeting. And DJ some AI stuff inside After Effects. But the AI stuff that I'm going to show inside Premiere is some of the stuff you might already know about, you might have used, and you might use all the time in your workflow, but some of it you may never have heard of, or you don't use, or you might have forgotten it was even there. So I'm going to show that. We did talk a little bit AI last month with Remix, which is totally AI. And then the auto tone, which is still in beta, and that's going to be coming out hopefully in the next drop, the next release or release after that. But that's using the AI. What do they call it? What is the Adobe AI thing? Is it Sensei or something like that? I don't know. It's AI. We'll just go with that. But the first thing I'm going to show you inside Premiere here is the auto reframe. So, because it is something that uses AI, and if you do any kind of social media posts and you don't know about this, then you need to know about this. So let's go through it. So basically, I have a sequence here that is just a bunch of random clips. Just threw this together for the demo, so there's no real rhyme or reason to it. But because you often have shots of scientists, then a random car shot, and then a guy walking in an office building. But it'll all be made clear in just a second on why I chose those shots. So let's say that the client says, hey, this video looks great, but now we need it to be viewable on Instagram. And instead of being 16:9, we need it to be 9:16, which is the dreaded vertical video, which, as everybody who are longtime members of this group knows, I hate, but it's a part of life now. So what we can do is just right click on the sequence and choose to auto reframe the sequence. Now, Premiere is going to give me this little dialog box. It's going to create a new sequence for me. The target aspect ratio, I've got a bunch of them here. So I've got square video, I've got vertical 4:5, 9:16, horizontal 16:9, or custom. I'm going to go vertical. Now, motion tracking. If you've got a video that not a lot is happening, then slower. And by not a lot is happening, I mean there's not a lot of fast movement in it. So like a lot of these shots where I've got folks just sitting in a lab, doing something, that would be slower motion. So you could probably choose that. Default is going to be just, random kind of movement, but nothing too extreme. Faster motion would be if you've got a lot of fast motion happening throughout the video, you would choose faster motion. So you're basically just sort of helping Premiere by kind of saying, hey, be on the lookout for this kind of stuff, and it helps it as it's doing its process here. So I'm going to go middle of the road and choose default. Now, these little selections right here for clip nesting, let me talk about those for a second. So don't nest clips. This will replace your current motion adjustment. So if you are working with 4K footage in a HD timeline, let's say, and you have, punched in a bit and, move the scale up of your clips, let's say, or added some motion keyframes to the clips already to kind of move things around. If you leave this box checked, then those keyframes and that scaling will go away. If you need to keep those intact and you want the auto reframer to sort of respect those, what it will do is it will create nested sequences for those shots that have that motion, those keyframes attached to it. And so it will sort of try to preserve that. I don't have any keyframes on any of these clips, so I'm just going to go ahead with don't nest clips. But just keep in mind, if you do have any kind of motion keyframes or any scaling properties or anything like that, it would be best to use the nest clips. Nest clips, easy for me to say. All right, so let's click create and see how fast this happens. And you can see it's already reformatted. It's created a new sequence. You see the little blue bar down at the bottom. It's working away. Analyzing, and it looks like it's done. That was super quick. So you can see kind of scrub through here. So this shot looks fine. Got the guy in the middle. Now you can see what it did. Let's come back to this one. So you can see I've got this graphic here, and this graphic's pretty big. So what the auto reframe did is it shrunk it down, but you can see that science stuff, that title got a little off. So I'm just going to move that up and adjust that. I guess the AI didn't really like that too much. There we go. We're good there. And that shot's looking good. You can see the guy's hands, got a close up of his eyes, looking intense as he's working. Now this shot, we're not really seeing what's happening. That's happening kind of over in this area. So what we can do if it doesn't get what you need, and really this is kind of looking for either a lot of movement or people's faces. That's what it kind of tends to lock onto. And since this one's kind of a weird shot of some pipettes kind of going down and doing their thing, I can come into the effects controls, and I've got the auto reframe effect here, and you can see I've got reframe offset. And so if I use that offset, I'll hold down my shift key to move it a little bit quicker, I can get it to line up on those things there. So now you can kind of see, there we go. That's better. So yeah, I've kind of, and I can move those over a little bit further if I wanted to. So when we cut to it, we can kind of see there's that camera move. So that helps. That shot looks pretty good. Now we got the car shot. Let's see how I did with the car shot. Look at that. Stayed right on that car. And then we track with the guy. So yeah, that looks pretty good. If I were going to post that to Instagram and say, check out my cool video, that would probably work. You know, I could maybe move that car. Does move a little bit off the edge there, but you know, that's kind of a big car and you got a weird frame. So I think that would probably work. So as you can see, the auto reframing did a pretty good job, except for this one shot, which I just adjusted on its own, or adjusted on or did myself. And then I've got the science stuff thing that needed to be fixed, but overall it did the work, most of the work for me. We can do it again with a 1x1. Let's try that and see how that works. So let's come back to my sequence here. We'll do auto reframe. Let's just do a square. We'll leave it at default again. Let's create. You can see it's already created the square. It's analyzing and it is done. Okay, so as you can see here, that shot looks pretty good. Science stuff still looks a little wonky. I'll kind of move that up just a smidge. And then that shot looks good. And let's see here. Sorry, I'm getting a weird message here from Zoom, so I'm just going to ignore that. Hopefully I still sound okay. So if I start to sound weird, somebody let me know. Okay. Anyway, not going to worry about it then. All right, so let's see how this one is. Okay, so that one's still a little bit off. So again, we can come in and reframe that one. There we go. And then got that. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. And we got that guy's face again. Car looks good. And we're still good on that guy. So I'm happy with that. So again, so that's auto reframe. It's really good if you got to do social media stuff and do any kind of reframing. Again, it's all AI based. It's, you know, it did what, 80% of what we needed it to do. I had to go in and fix just a few things. I'd say maybe 90%. So anyway, so that's auto reframe. Very handy feature. If you've never used it and you had to do any kind of social media post, definitely check it out. Let's see. I think there were some questions here, and if I can get my Zoom up, I will answer those questions, but I can't see the chat pod for some reason. So if somebody does have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask before I move on to the next thing.
We have one question. Actually, how does it handle subtitle streams? Can it change line breaks? It's from Peter Cohen.
That's a good question. I think it does. It will change the line breaks and it will adjust the size, just like it did with the graphic of shrinking it down. It will readjust and change the line breaks to fit. I actually haven't done it with captions with the new caption track yet, so not really sure how that would affect it. But I'm assuming it would just do what it normally does. It will shrink it down and make it fit the same way.
All right, and we also have this might be a comment, but maybe you could address it. I'm not sure. I use auto frame a lot, and in my experience, Premiere chooses lower resolutions when creating new auto frame sequences, 720 instead of 1080 by 1080, for example. I wish we could change that in the future. Is that able to be changed or chosen rather?
That's a good question. So if I come to, let's see what the sequence. So this sequence that I started with was, let's look, should be 1920 by 1080. This is frame size 1080 by 1080. That's weird. Am I in the right thing here? That is weird. Okay, well, the auto frame, as far as I know, it should sort of respect. Oh yeah, so it does shrink it down to make it the correct thing. Let me do one thing. Let's run a little test here. I'll click cancel. I'm gonna do this auto reframe. I'm gonna change the sequence settings on it. Oh wait, no, now it's okay. Now it says 1920 by 1080. I don't know what's happening here, but okay. Premiere's starting to be wonky. So let me come over to the 1x1. This is 1080. Okay, I had it. That's what's 1080 by 1080. So that's a good question. I would think that if you come into, let's go to the 9x16 one, look at the sequence settings. So yeah, it did shrink it from 1920 by 1080 to 607 by 1080. And so you're asking if we could change that back to 1920 by 1080. Let's see what happens if I just change it. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but let's find out. Well, that's going to change it back to 16 by 9. Sorry, it's been a long day. That's a good question. I don't know. I haven't run across that. It hasn't been an issue for me because most of the stuff is going to social media. And so no one's ever had a real issue with it.
Could you make it 1080 by 1920? That would
Let's
be
do that.
yeah.
I just thought about that.
Yeah, what it did was just crop off in order to give you the aspect ratio you asked for.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing too. Yeah, it's going to do some cropping. So let's do that. So yeah, I was able to change it there. And we still look good. Yeah, and we're at 1080 by 1920. So yeah, just going in and then changing that in the sequence settings, adjusted for that. So yeah, you're good to go.
But aren't you just, what is it? Oh my God, what I'm going to say extrapolating, and that's the wrong word. Aren't you just upsizing it at that point, and you're not really changing the resolution? You're just.
No, you're changing the resolution. You're not upsizing anything because the media itself is still, all of these clips are with the exception, I think this one, are all 4K clips. So the resolution on them is still taking the 4K clip, or in this shot of the car is actually HD, but it's taking those clips and just sort of, shrinking them down or cropping them to fit in that what was originally a 607 by 1080. Now it's just fitting it into a 1080 by 1920 frame, and it's giving you a little bit more real estate just because you've got the added resolution, but it's not doing anything to the footage. It's not down resing the footage or rasterizing the footage or doing anything else to change the quality of the footage that you're using. That should still be the same quality. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question, Marshall?
Yeah, it kind of, but I also wonder with some of the AI stuff, I know it actually does change the resolution and it essentially creates a proxy, but it does it in the background. But
and I don't think that's not happening here.
Okay.
So it's not creating any proxy files or
no, I mean, it doesn't obviously create one, but they can do it in the background. I mean, I think I remember something about auto reframe that it did that in the beginning. I can't remember. So
yeah, I'll look into it and ask around about it, but as far as I know, it doesn't do anything to the footage itself.
okay.
So
Thank you.
Any other questions before we move on?
Yeah, I asked you that question about the subtitle thing.
Yes.
And it's because I have to regionalize social media trailers for a major streaming service. So I'm putting a lot of subtitles on them in a lot of different languages.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But they supply me the trailers as 16 by 9, 9 by 16, and 1 by 1. You think there's a way to make it handle just a subtitle stream?
To make it handle just so that you would just drop the video in and then just add a subtitle?
Well, what happens now is I get the subtitle streams, but I get them as pings using the company's subtitling software.
Okay.
But I could get them as subtitle streams, and then instead of them having to do it 3 times, well, twice really, the 1 by 1s and the 16 by 9s work fine. The 9 by 16s are the problems.
Right.
And so they have to supply me I get them as pings with a XML that I import and then superimpose them over the backgrounds. But I can get them as subtitle streams if I could figure out how to make them resize automatically. That saves the subtitling department a lot of work and also saves me a lot of work.
So yes, you're saying basically if you get like an SRT file,
Correct.
Drop in. So I mean, yeah, let's do a quick little test here. And this is not going to be, as good as I would like it, but let's create a new caption track. Let's do subtitle just for the purposes of this. Okay, so let's come here and let's just add in a new subtitle. And I'm just going to give it I'm going to just bunch of gobbledygook. Just so it all kind of, and then let's come here. We'll add a new one. We'll just do 2.
Yeah, most words aren't that long. You might want to put some spaces in between so you can
Oh, that's
figure
true.
out how to move them around.
Yeah, let's do that.
This is all in German. For the German and Polish.
This is my own personal family language.
I wish I could just get my company to decide on what the proper abbreviation is for German. Some subtitle is put in DEU and some subtitle is put in GER.
So I just did a huge subtitle project not too long ago, and I feel your pain on that. So
Yeah.
well aware. Okay, so we did our subtitles here. We've got 2 of them. So let's see what happens. So if I go, so let's come out of here. Let's go back into here. And let's do auto reframe. Where's my thing here? So auto reframe sequence. Let's just do the 9:16.
Right.
We could create. And it's analyzing. And we are done. So you can see it did reformat them.
It did exactly what I would hope it would do.
Yep. Because yeah, you can see there's what we had and there's what we got. So yeah, basically just shrunk it down and reformatted it.
Perfect. Very cool.
So there you go. Glad that helps. All right, let's move on here. So the next thing, this is a quick thing. And again, it might be something that you know about, something maybe you don't know about, but we're going to just show it real quick here. This is just a fast one. So this is the scene edit detect. It's been in Premiere for a while, but you know, sometimes people don't remember that it's there and it could be really helpful. So I've got this video here. And if I wanted to, you know, go through and color grade some of the shots, and you know, there's a lot of different shots in this video. And to break it, if I wanted to break it up into individual shots, so I could color grade the shots individually, let's say, what I can do is just come here and choose scene edit detection. And it'll open up this dialog box, which gives me 3 different choices. You can output, apply a cut at each detected cut point, which is what I want to do for this case. You can create a bin of subclips from each of the detected cut points. That could be helpful too if you were going to be using those clips in other parts of the video or moving them around. Or you can create a clip marker at each detected cut point. That would be cool too if I needed the markers, but I don't. So I'm just going to choose analyze for the sake of this demo, and it will analyze the clips and see how fast it works. And the AI magic is doing its thing. We'll see how well it works here. And it should work well because I did this in rehearsal and it worked well. So, all right, there we go. So you can see it made all of the cuts where all the cuts are. So you kind of go through, and as you see, boom, there's a cut there. Go to the next shot. You can see it nailed it dead on. So again, that is a really handy feature if you need to break up a video into individual clips. As you can see, it worked relatively quick. I mean, granted, this was a 1-minute clip. If you had a longer video, it would probably take a little bit longer. I have noticed some weirdness with this feature. So for instance, I had a video before that I had some fade to blacks, and then it was sort of like you see video, fade to black, another video clip, fade to black, another video clip. And for whatever reason, the scene detect didn't pick up the edits between the fade to blacks. It only got where the hard cuts were. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm just looking at the comment here about the Zoom interviews. You know what? So I will tell you, the issue with that might be that Zoom videos, the quality that comes out of a Zoom video is pretty bad. And so, yeah, Resolve does have a really good system for doing this, no question about that. But yeah, the Zoom videos are just a bear to deal with, and Premiere is, you know, not great at handling the high compression that goes into those videos, and so that could be causing some of the issue that you're seeing using it with a Zoom video. I know just trying to edit together these meetings from the Zoom video that's recorded, you know, can be a real problem. But especially if they're really long clips. So that might be some of what's causing that on the Zoom video.
I heard what you were saying about the fade-ins and fade-outs. What about dissolves?
So I haven't, dissolves, it usually gets it kind of like right in the middle of the dissolve. I haven't had issues with that. It does pick up on dissolves. I don't think I have, this video has any dissolves in it. Otherwise I'd show you how to do that. But I've noticed dissolves are okay, but the fade to blacks are where I've seen it get a little bit wonky. So, but Yeah, there's no dissolves in this one, I don't think. I think this is all just straight cuts. That's why I kind of chose this clip. But yeah, dissolves have worked for me. Just kind of cuts in the middle of it. Okay.
One more question,
Yes.
quickly. If I set an in and an out, can you do scene selection, scene cuts for just a section of the sequence?
Good question. I don't think I've ever done that. Let's see.
Because I'm often working on, a full length feature, and I maybe have to fix 3 shots in the middle.
Yeah. It doesn't. So I'm going to say no, just because it doesn't have any kind of in to out. It's not giving me a choice of like in and out points to just recognize those. So I'm thinking if I click analyze, it's still going to do the whole thing, even though I've got in and out point. I guess what you would need to do is probably just make cuts where you wanted to, let's see. Yeah, it's going to do the whole thing here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the only thing I could think to do would be, and we can try this real quick and then I'll stop it if it doesn't. Let's clear in and out. Let's make a cut here. Let's make a cut here. Just kind of drag those. And then if I just do this one, yeah, see, it just did that. So just by cutting the section out,
Right.
Analyze would probably be the best way to go with that. Otherwise, it's going to do the whole thing.
Thanks for the workaround.
All right, let's keep going. So last little AI thing that I'm going to show. Again, some of you may know about this, may have forgotten about it. It's a feature. I will preface this by saying it's a feature that I use on occasion. It's the results from it can be mixed, but it's good for getting a jump on things, kind of getting a starting point. And it's called the color match feature. It's been in Premiere for a little while, but I've got this shot here. This is from a few years ago. It's my son watering something in the backyard. This is when, I think this is a couple months after the pandemic started, and we were so bored that we filmed our kids watering stuff in the backyard in 240 frames per second, super slow-mo, because that's what you did back in April of 2020. But let's say that I want to make this a little bit more, sort of golden, kind of, sunsetty, and I want it to be really kind of orange and feel kind of really, warm and wonderful. And I wanted to find a reference frame to sort of kind of emulate something. And let's just say that, for this shot of my son watering this thing, the reference frame that I wanted to use was Blade Runner 2049. Because why not? It's golden, it looks warm, it looks desolate, which is not what I'm going for, but it looks warm and very orangey, which is kind of what I want. So for this, I'm going to go into my color settings and I'm going to choose the comparison view. And let's see here, let me get this over here. So you can see I've got this as my reference image, and this is my video. Now, I'm going to say one thing. So when you choose to do the match, what's going to happen is Premiere is going to create a version of, or a lumetri effect on the clip and create all the settings to sort of match it. Now you can see over here, I've already got a lumetri color, some color work I've done on this. So if I turn this off, you can kind of see the shot was a little flat, not too bright, a little muted. And so I went in and did just a little bit of work to touch it up to make it look like that, because this is really what I want my starting point to be, not the muted kind of, almost log-like way that I shot it. So, but again, if I just hit match right now, it's going to overwrite all the stuff that I did to get to this base point and just kind of go with that. So what I'm going to do is create a new version of Lumetri. So I'm going to come up to the top here, choose add Lumetri color effects. So now it's added a second instance of Lumetri, and that's the one I want to do the color match with. So now I'll click apply match. Well, actually, first thing I'm going to do is turn off face detection. So face detection, when it's on, the AI is going to sort of look for faces and try to match skin tones and try to, just going to look for those faces to help it in its process of trying to match the colors. As you can see, I have no faces really in this shot, so I don't want it to waste any time trying to look for that or even try to match that. I just want it to match the overall tone. So by clicking apply match, there you go. We've got our orange. You can kind of look at it in a split screen and say, yeah, it looks pretty, definitely very orange. So might be a little too orange, but you can see I can come over here in my my color wheels, and I'm going to dial that orange back a little bit, maybe say, you know, like right around there. That looks pretty good to me. And that's what I was talking about before. Color match is a good sort of starting point, like a launching point to kind of get you close to the reference image that you're using. It may not be exactly what you want. You may still have to go in and tweak it a little bit, but you know, again, it's designed to sort of push you in the right direction. And for people that are not really good color graders like me, I like any help that I can get. And so a lot of times if I have an image, you know, that I really like, and, you know, I like the color values in it, or the you know, whatever, it's like, okay, let's use the color match and see if we can kind of use that to get us in the ballpark. And then I can kind of go, excuse me, I can go through and fine tune and tweak stuff. So, and you can see too, over here now, I've got 2 instances of color, Lumetri color. So I still have, you can kind of see the difference between if I turn off the one that was the base one, how it looks. And actually, you know, I like that better with a little bit more contrasty. And then you can turn off the look that we made. So that's the way, when I do color match, I like to do it with the two instances just for that reason. So let me turn off the comparison view and let's get out of our color.
Hey, Eric.
Yeah.
Something to add to this. I just have gotten, I'm not actually using it yet, but I'm intending to use it. But there's a piece of, I guess it's not software, it's just a thing you subscribe to called Shot Deck. And it's made for collecting scrap or footage from basically all the movies, most of the movies you've ever seen, all the scenes in the entire movie. It collects stills to use for things like this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's really awesome. You know, it's I think it's $100 a year or something like that, or they have sales on it. But so it's kind of reasonably priced. I mean, maybe people use them for lookbooks, but the colorists use them as well. And you know, to rough out a shot, you know, to rough out color, just to give it a starting point. And
Post a link in the chat there, Marshall.
Yeah, I was gonna say that exact thing. Yeah, if you could type that in the chat, and if you have a link to it, that would be great.
you got it.
All right, Shot Deck, sweet. Oh, it's really made by the DP of The Hangover. Very cool. All right, so that concludes my AI portion of the meeting, and I'm going to move into a couple extensions here that I think are really, really cool. Now, I will say at the outset that I have just started using these extensions, so I am still sort of figuring them out and learning them as I go. But they were just, you know, too cool not to share right now, and I wanted to kind of share them with you all because I think they're just kind of really a nice little time saver. So first thing I'm going to show you is I've got this sequence here. This should all look familiar. I've got this sequence here. Let me actually do something here. Reset this. Oops. Let me do this before I get started here. I forgot to set to frame size. There we go. All right, so first thing I'm going to show you is a tool that's called Excalibur. And I'm going to hit Alt-Shift, and that's going to open up Excalibur for me. And there it is. If you listen to the literature, they'll say that you're unsheathing Excalibur, which I think is funny. These products are all made from a company called Knights of the Edit Table. They are a really cool company when they do, of course, everything in this kind of old English style, and their tutorials are kind of spoken that way. And even when I wrote to them to tell them how much I love their products and I wanted to see if they could donate something for a raffle prize, they actually wrote me back in email form in old English and thanked me for, you know, loving their product, and hoped that, you know, they were happy to help me on my quest of spreading the word about their product. They're really cool company. So anyway, let's jump into Excalibur. So what is Excalibur? So I've got this little window right here. I can move it around wherever I want. Let's say I'm going to select this clip right here. And let's say I want to add a curves effect on it. So all I have to do in Excalibur is type curves. And you can see it shows me all the different curves effects. I can just click on RGB curves, and it should be adding RGB curves there, but for some reason it didn't. So I don't know what's going on there, but let's try again. I want to do RGB curves. There we go. And so now you can see I just added my curve effects. I can, you know, make any adjustment I want. If I want to come back and I want to add lumetri, I can come down lumetri color, add that to it, and I can kind of make some corrections. So what it really allows me to do is start just adding effects right without having to go up to the effects controls and for searching for stuff. You know, it allows me to do that all right here. I can even add transitions. So if I come over this edit point right here, and again, let's get Excalibur out. I'm going to do a dissolve. I can type. I want my impact dissolve. That's sort of what my standard is. I'm going to make it a 15 frame dissolve. And boom, there's my 15 frame dissolve. Just went ahead and added it there. So other things that you can do with it, I can, if I wanted to export some clips, let's say I just wanted to export these 2 clips as for whatever reason, I needed them as ProRes files or something. Again, we will unsheath Excalibur, type export. And I have export media, export selected clips. I can export a frame. You can do all these different things. Now, the way that it works, and I just actually installed this on this system, so I don't have the presets, but what it does is it uses presets that you create. And if I click over here, you can see it's letting me choose where I want to save them and then export preset. And it says to use this feature, create a user export preset, which I haven't done on my laptop yet. I have it on my big edit workstation across the room here at the office. But anyway, so I could do that and it would open up Media Encoder and then immediately start exporting out these 2 clips that I have selected. I can do it with the timeline to do it the same way. I can export it out that way, same kind of thing, but I just need to have a preset that you can create in here and it'll do it all through Media Encoder. One nice thing too is like I've got this shot right here. You know, if I wanted to fill the frame, I can just go fill frame and oops, gotta have the clip selected. Sorry. Let's try that one more time. Let's see. So fill frame and boom, it fills the frame. And you can see that it uses the set to frame size as opposed to the scale to frame size, which would re-raster it. So it just increased the scale for me right there. And let's say that I wanted to create some keyframes. So if I turn on my stopwatch, let me just drag this down here. I can do the same thing. I can just go scale and then come over, set value. And let's say I'm at 6, or let's say I'm at 90 right now. Let's say I want to go to 120. And it will create that keyframe at 120 for me and do the animation for me. So very, very handy. You can also in it create shortcuts. So if I come up here, can I also use this extension for Essential Graphic? I would think, yes, you can. Yes, you can. I think it will work over with the Essential Graphics panel. So if I come up here to Window, Extensions, and Excalibur Settings, it'll open up a little dialog box here, and I can create custom keystrokes that will do things inside of Excalibur. The nice thing too is if I wanted to, let's say you had a project where you wanted to do a lot of, I needed to add lumetri and warp stabilizer, let's say, to a bunch of clips because I needed to color grade them and I needed to stabilize them. I could create a user command, and I'm going to call this color plus warp. Oops, I can spell warp. So now I'm going to add a command, and the first one I'm going to add is lumetri. And you can see I've got lumetri color. I'm going to add another command, and we'll do warp stabilizer. And we'll say OK. So now I can select these clips, and I'll go color. And you can see I've got my preset right there, color plus warp. So if I click that or hit enter, it automatically has added lumetri and warp stabilizer to all those clips. And it's already starting to analyze them. So very, very handy time saving tool there. You know, I love being able to kind of do things with, you know, with one keystroke, I can do a bunch of things. And this really sort of allows you to add, you know, do audio effects with it. You know, you can add whatever kind of effects, whatever you would go into the effects controls to add, you can just do right here from the Excalibur window. Everything's right there. You can add mirrors. This is something else. Here, let me get rid of the effects here. So let's see. Where is my remove attributes? Let's just remove all that stuff. I'll show you the markers thing here too before we go. So I got these clips selected. So let's get Excalibur. I'm going to go marker. So I'm going to add marker to selection because I've got those clips selected. I'm going to make it red, and the marker name, I'm going to say, color grade these clips. And once I hit enter, you'll see it's added a marker over those 3 clips with the note color grade these clips. So again, real handy feature. And it's just, I'm starting, as the more I have this and the more I'm editing with it, I'm really kind of loving it just for the efficiency and being able to get stuff real quick without having to go to the effects panel. And yeah, I know the effects panel, I can search in that window and, kind of dive through that and stuff, but the stuff that you can do from the Excalibur panel is, I don't know, for me, I like it. It's a little bit more efficient. It helps me work quicker. So the next thing I will show is another product that they have. And this one's called, it's a creepy product name, but hey, does the trick. It's called Grave Robber. And what Grave Robber does is, so I've got this sequence here, and you can see I've got a nested sequence right here. Got a couple more sciencey shots. But if I needed to get into this nested sequence and unnest it right here in here, all I have to do is come up to extension, choose Grave Robber. You can see I've got my little shovel. I've got that nest selected, and you can see it saying dig it up. And if I click it, there, it's unnested it. So now I can get in there, I can tweak these clips, do whatever I need to do. And when I'm all done doing it, I can just come back here to undo, and boom, it renests it for me. So that's all that really does is just for unnesting stuff. But yeah, it's a very handy feature. So let me look at this question. Can it be used to make macros? So yes, so you can, in Excalibur, you can go in and create custom keyboard shortcuts that will then sort of, well, let me put it this way. So you can create it to do things like I showed, where it's adding a number of things, to maybe export out something or to add effects to a clip or things like that. But it really depends on what you're talking about with macros. If you're trying to set up sort of a feature like actions in Photoshop, where it's going to do multiple things, I don't know that it necessarily will do that. But you can create different processes, different actions, or different effects that you can drop onto things, and then do that all at once, kind of like I showed with color warp stabilizer. So, but as for full-on macros, I don't know that it will necessarily do that. So yeah, was there a question?
I use Keyboard Maestro for macros.
Oh yeah, Wayne. If Wayne's still in the meeting, yeah, I think that was Wayne. So that would be the key. He would be the person to ask about that. If you have a link to that, Wayne, could you put that in the chat?
Sure.
Excuse me, I got a question.
Yeah.
It says on its site that it's for $75. It's 2 systems a year, so it doesn't go with my keyboard presets. If I run out to, I do a lot of agency work and I'm on someone else's system, I can't bring that with me, right? I mean, other than
that would, you would. It's not something that lives inside Adobe. You have to install it on the system that you're on. So
right.
If you went to work on another computer, it's not something that would carry over through Creative Cloud.
Yeah, it's like not like I bring my keyboard shortcuts with me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you could bring your keyboard shortcuts, if you synced, through Creative Cloud. But yeah, using
not this.
Not
extension.
this, unfortunately. Not that extension. So
okay.
All right. Last thing I've got to is there another question? Nope. Okay. Last thing I'm going to show before I throw it over to DJ is a feature that this is actually how I found out about this company and the stuff they use, because Wayne Brubaker, who's in this meeting, had asked me how to do this, and I found this company and found what they were able to do, and that's where I got excited. This is the last one is called Watchtower. And what Watchtower does is it basically creates a sync for your project folder. So it's like a watch folder. So if you have a project folder, like I've got a project folder here that's called February user group meeting, I can create a watch folder so that anytime I add media to that folder, it will automatically input or import into Premiere. So I'm going to come here and click on this folder icon. And you can see here is all the things on my D drive. And I've already got this folder set up here, February user group meeting, and I've got it checked. You can see that you can come through, and if you have red files, it will bring in red files, but it will, connect them, if they're broken up into smaller clips, it will reconnect them. If you have image sequences, it will bring them in, the right way. It's really sort of advanced. You can even choose how to bring in like formats and stuff to see. So, but let me just show you how it works here. So let me go here. Let me open this up. Okay, so I'm going to come to this video file folder, and I've got a clip right here. So I'm gonna just copy. I'm gonna come over here to the February meeting. I'm gonna paste. Now it's added there. Now let's come back over to Premiere, and you can see it's already added that folder or that file to my Premiere project here. It's created a folder called February user group meeting, and there's the video file. It's automatically done it. Now I can tell it to not automatically add stuff, and I can sync it as I go. But hey, listen, if I know I want it in there, I'm just going to let it sync on its own. If I create a new folder, and I'm going to call this folder media, let's say. You can see here, it's automatically created a media. Okay, so sorry, let me click that. So, so we've got a media folder here. So let's go back. Oops, let's go back there, and I'll show you kind of how you can set up folders within there. And let me get a different video clip here. Let's get this video clip. So I'll just copy. We'll come back over to the thing, media, paste, and you can see it's importing it already. And it gives me notice down here, and it's put it in that media folder. So again, so it's added that into the folder that I created, the subfolder. So again, Watchtower is becoming one of my favorite tools, because I don't know about you all, but a lot of times I'm downloading media that, client is sending me music tracks or graphic images, or, any kind of things that's assets that are going to go into Premiere. I can now just create this watch folder, or turn on Watchtower. I can download those asset files and tell, the web browser where to save it and what folder I want it to save to. And then boom, as soon as I click back over to Premiere, once it's done downloading, it's in Premiere and I'm ready to go. No having to like copy it over or import it in Premiere or worry about any of that kind of stuff. It's just automatically there. So yeah, this feature, I absolutely love it. It's so worth the money. Any questions before I move on? Okay, no. The other thing too, and before I wrap up here and hand over to DJ, I'll show Watchtower does have some settings. If we come into the settings tab here, so you can see I've got auto sync enabled. You've got all these different things that you can kind of check on to customize it how you want to do it. You can choose what files you want it to recognize. So if, for instance, if there are certain things you don't want it to import in, you have this long list of stuff. I like that they've still got WMV here. Someone's keeping that alive. God bless them. And then you can add folders and, all kinds of stuff here. So that's, a definite, it's a definite plus to any workflow, I think. So, all right, I'm going to cancel out of here. And let's see, I think that is all I got. So
Eric,
yes.
have you talked about Remix yet?
We talked about Remix in the last meeting.
Sorry, wasn't there.
I mean, unfortunately, I don't have any music on here to show you, but just watch
I think you recorded the meeting there.
Yeah,
Wayne
it's up
just
on the
watched
YouTube channel. So if you watch, you can go ahead and watch it. And
Well, I've been using it, but it's not speeding up my workflow at all.
really,
You're using it wrong.
The problem is if it doesn't like the music it won't be the exact length, and so I'll have a couple of seconds shorter, a couple of seconds long, and I end up having to re-edit it anyway.
well, yeah. So that's part of the it's looking at the music and trying to find the most smoothest sound. There are, have you adjusted the parameters inside of there to sort of play with it a little bit to fine tune it?
No, I just went back to my original workflow. You know, my music is just used as audio filler, really, because my videos are just about the video. People don't watch my videos to listen to the music. I want them just to mute the music. The music is just there so they know that there's nothing wrong with their video player. So for me, I just put the music at the beginning, put the music at the end, and slap it in the middle, and don't care about the dissolve.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one thing that makes remix a little tricky is, you know, it's not going to give you exactly the exact time that you want, just because it's got to recalculate the music and it's trying to make the music sound smooth. And so that might mean that it doesn't end exactly when you want it to. But, you know, but I found that if you shorten it, go a little bit shorter than you need to, if you have like a long end, a lot of times you can just fade out that end a little bit sooner, and then that sort of does the trick.
I was using it, but I found myself having to play with it the way I would do my original audio edit. So I just doubled my work.
Well, it's not for everybody, I guess.
But it's a wonderful tool. I mean, it works great. I think if you have a 3.5-minute video and you want to have that, and you have a piece of music that you really, really like, it's great.
Yeah. It's like I said, that your issue with it is something that I've come up against, and sometimes you have to tweak it and play with it a little bit. But, you know, to me, it makes the music in most cases, especially when, you know, I don't have, if there's not voiceover where I can hide the music edits really well. I mean, if I have a video where there's just straight voiceover, you know, and I can hide the edits because there's voiceover and, you know, you're not going to notice it. I can the edit may not be perfect in the music, but I can get it to end right when I want it to and things like that. Yeah, that works, but I don't always have that luxury. Sometimes there's parts where there's no voiceover, and that's where remix really kind of comes in. It's able to smooth that out. So
also there's a parameter for when you want it to end. Is there a parameter that lets you end exactly on the time you know, so it adjusts it? It may not sound so good, but isn't there one of the advanced parameters?
Not that I know of.
Laser blade tool.
I haven't used it in a while, but I thought there was.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, I don't want to take away from DJ here, and like I said, I don't have any music in here, but no, as far as I know, there's not a parameter that will end right when you want it to. I mean, you can adjust by using the remix selector here and kind of drag it there to where you want it to, and it'll do the best it can. But yeah, it's still going to sort of fluctuate a bit. So okay, so I am going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to DJ.
So I spent the last like 15 minutes while you were talking trying to come up with some sort of pun about all along the watchtower, and I couldn't do it. I failed. Okay, so we're going to talk about 4 different things today, because those were the ones that I was able to find out. And cool thing, so I taught myself these things because you guys wanted to see some AI and After Effects, which I think is awesome. Learn these things, brought them up to my main, did it, you know, it was so cool. I was doing it in a coffee shop on my laptop, like, look at me, it's like an episode of Friends. And then I brought it to my main system, installed them, and realized that in the new install that came out today, they had a different UI. So things might be a little different because there's a few things that don't line up with what it was doing yesterday. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and share, and we're hopping into these. I'm just going to share my whole screen because YOLO. Let's see how it goes. Okay.
These are the best kind of presentations when they fly by the seat of their pants.
They changed everything too. It's awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna start with 2 utilities, and then we'll move into the things that are a little bit maybe more exciting, but also more likely to break. Okay, so the first one is called, and it has nothing to do with the video that's up. This was just me trying to learn a few things about it while Eric was giving his thing. So the first one is Scale Up. It's available at aescripts.com, as are all of these. Don't look at my email. They're all through aescripts.com. And this one's Scale Up, like $50. So I almost didn't get this one, but I was actually kind of impressed by it. All it does is it uses AI to scale your stuff really big. So, and with all of these, I'm going to kind of give you like my, is this a good buy or is this a bad buy? So this one I think is pretty good in certain situations. So the place that I wanted to try, and you're going to find out that a lot of the stuff that's in After Effects, it's AI, it's really easy, which is awesome, but that's also its limitation in some cases. So the first thing that I thought about was back 100 years ago, I worked on some ads for CSI New York that were in 720 by 486. They look awesome, but like, what am I going to do with this? You know? So let's say that I want to turn it into something 4K. So let's go ahead and go over here. I'm going to pull up 4K. Boom. All right. So if I just scale it up, this is what we get. Let's just scale it. Yeah. Okay, and we go into full. Let's see what it looks like. Get a little pixelation, but it's actually not terrible, but you can't use it. Okay, so we'll go back to 0 or to 100. And your typical way to do it would be detail preserving upscale, which is a little better. Come over here to effect, width. And actually what we'll do is we'll go ahead and duplicate that, and we're going to get all three up. So our 3 different versions. So there's our first one is, let's scale it up to 4K. Then we've got our detail preserving upscale. Let's go ahead and hop in. Let's see. So nothing, detail preserving upscale. Pretty good. All right. So this one's going to be our last one. We're going to make sure that it's back down at 100. And we're going to scale up. Boom. All right. Scale up to width. All right. So something that I've, as of yet, have not been able to figure out, and they've not written me back yet, is why it seems constrained by some sort of aspect ratio elements. If it's 16 by 9 already, it goes to 16 by 9, no problem. So there's some sort of aspect. So I don't know why, like it says fit to width, and it doesn't seem to be able to be scaled past that. It'll scale larger, but it won't scale past that aspect ratio. I don't know why. I'll let you know if they let me know. But the thing that I found interesting was, let's go ahead and hop in to see how clean that text came in. So this was our just scaling it up to 100. Detail preserving upscale was better. That's coming in pretty sharp. You know, if we were to kind of match them up, like that's pretty sharp for something that's scaled up. The place that it does start to break down, though, is it's starting to fill in stuff up in these areas where we're getting kind of just weird wispies. Some of the these details are a little strange. You can see this is starting to look a little curly. But you can sharpen it up a little bit even more. I think this is pretty good. I think it would be great in like a video aspect. So if you have a bunch of 720 footage you needed scaled up. If another example that I was going to throw in was the first picture of my wife and I together. So this was taken on a like 2 megapixel camera in 1999. We volunteered at a sea turtle hospital, and we have this photo of everyone that volunteered at the sea turtle hospital. But it was a 2 megapixel camera. It came out to 640 by 480. So we throw it into scale up, and we are again running into some weird issues with clipping. It clips off a little bit at the top, but like it's not bad. Like these look like general faces. There's me with my crazy long hair, circa 1999. And I think from like a video standpoint, again, like this is a 640 480 turned into a 4K image. It's not bad. I know Eric and I have worked on some projects together where sometimes like people like to give you like their driver's license photo, and they say, we want to use this in a large environment. I think it's going to be great for that. I think it is quantifiably better than the scale up or the detail preserving upscale. That said, is it worth $60? It just depends on how often you need it. I do think it's stronger. If we could sort out why we're running into the weird aspect ratio issues, I think it would be better. But then you've got in some cartoon, you've got a few other elements in here that you can change up. And these are just different ways that it interprets the data to get rid of, you'll see this one looks a little bit more painterly. Let's zoom in on this dude's face. When it scales up, like that's not going to work. But if if it's a video, if it's something that's moving, you're going to have a little blur to it. I think it might work a little better. You throw it in sharp. Again, we're talking about a very tiny image being scaled up. So that's fast, and then there's bicubic, and there's just a few different algorithms that it uses to do that. I think it's all right. So that's scale up. Neato. The next one is taken from everybody's most memorable Super Bowl halftime show, the Lady Gaga one. So Blaze, who made the next three plugins, Blaze, they write white papers, they post them to GitHub, and then they make After Effects plugins out of them, from what I can tell. This is another utility that if you need it, it's awesome. If you don't need it, now this one I would say is definitely a buy if you ever do this kind of thing. If you don't, obviously you don't need it. But so you just go and type Blaze, and that's what it does. It tracks them, it covers the faces, you can throw it in. It's good for face tracking, and to, let's say that. I know it's Adobe's got the face tracker that's pretty easy, but this is one click. I've not even done anything with it yet. You can set the buffer size to normal, high. I actually grabbed some footage right as Eric was finishing his last talks. So I'm gonna see if I can dig around and find it real quick. But it was just a shot of a bunch of friends hanging out, and I wanted to try it on to see what we had. Group of friends going for.
Dude, that's amazingly fast.
Oh yeah, and it's so the nice thing is, and this is also, I'm playing a little dangerous tonight. All the Blaze plugins are GPU accelerated, which is awesome unless you're streaming them on Zoom, which can sometimes be a bad idea. So if my whole system shuts down, rest in peace. I don't know. But yeah, so we just throw it in there, boom, it's done. The cool thing, so all of these settings in here, buffer size is, and I think all of these are going to be very low. Yeah, all of these are going to be about the same size. Buffer size is mostly about how big a face has to be before it shows up. Threshold's kind of this, what you think, it'll, if we crank it down low enough, and all of these are about the same size, so that's problems.
Does it track? If you've got video, will it track with the people as it moves?
Oh yeah, these are already tracked. Like, let's see, these are already tracked. And it's taken care of. And you can also, in some cases you might lose it, and that's where your threshold is going to come in. When I lower the threshold, there we go. The threshold brings it back. So if there are details of the face being lost, you just lower the threshold a bit, it brings it back in. But there is a hit on performance. I will say it's blazingly fast when you're not on Zoom. When you're on Zoom, I've noticed that this is not quite the speed I was getting, but yeah, I mean, and this is at full, but yeah, I mean, you'll see that, like, we're already like a second in, we're chugging right along, and we've not tracked it. That's just dropped straight away. You can also do, if you just want the eyes. So the blur on the eyes sometimes is a little small. You can always just horizontal scale that. Oh, not that much, that'll be crazy. But yeah, you can scale it out a little bit. And if you really want to see it, you can change it to mosaic. You can change it to solid rectangle. So if you want them to be black, you can change just to the blur. That's what it's. Outline, I don't know why you would choose the outline, but like maybe. The other cool thing is, if let's say that you wanted to do the solid rectangle. Cool. Now you can do it on transparent. So if you just wanted to use this to drive an effect, like maybe they just have desaturated eye areas. I don't know why you do that, but now we wait. What I was going to do was essentially, you can use that as an alpha matte because it's on transparent. So you can use it as an alpha matte or a track matte to, there we go. Oh, I didn't mean to put that one. Saturation, and then alpha matte, crank these down. And now they're all, they have this kind of thing. So you can use it as an easy way to track a face too, if you want to apply different effects to it. And that's going to update pretty quickly because you go in, you can change it to that, the outline, and it's just these weird or that's the mosaic. You got these weird outlines now you could do. So yeah, I mean, it tracks faces. It does it well. You can change the scaling of the box or the area that's being blurred. You know, it does what it says it on the tin, and it does it well. The one kind of cool thing about it, and I'm going to get out of all of this junk just to make it more friendly, is let's see, reset. All right, is that if we wanted to, we could set an include mask and an exclude mask. So let's say that like these three people over here in the witness protection program, these three people are not, and we can show their face. So we can just take this mask and drag it over here. And now it's not going to put anybody in this mask. It's not going to get their faces. You can then do, if you're like, oh, but like this one woman right here is, then you can add an include mask into that. And these are just typical masks that it brings in. So it's thinking. Okay, let's get a think for a minute, but these are just masks that you can turn off and on. But yeah, it just helps you kind of define who's being used. Also, if you have like one large face and a bunch of small ones behind, you can exclude the large faces, which, yeah, these are all the same size, so that might not work. But let's see if we can go back to Lady Gaga. Yeah, they're all the same face too. These kids, all same. That sucks. But they track. Yeah, like I said, does what it says, does it well. Yeah. All right. The next one that we're going to talk about. This is the first thing that's going to like, people are going to be like, ooh, that was cool. Thanks, DJ. We were really happy that. All right. Let's see. A shot of a young woman. Okay. So we have our friend here. She's turning around and the client's like, oh, but why is it looks like it's an empty parking lot behind her. We wanted her to be at the beach. Can we like put a green screen behind her and get rid of stuff? And you're like, but this is already shot, sir. That is impossible. And they say, but we're clients. We don't understand how things work. And you say, okay, because you're clients, I can do this for you. So you come over here and you press auto mask, boom. And you just keyed her out. Now there's a little bit of chunks in there. So we're going to go in, we're going to up the samples to like, not that many because that will crash everything. But we turn it to 5 and now we've got it looking pretty good. And she's cut out almost instantly. Now there are 3 versions of this. Now, okay. As far my recommendations, scale up. It's okay. The face thing. I think that if you ever blur faces one time, it'll pay for itself. It's awesome. This one I think is pretty good. I would get it for the future updates because if you know on this shot, it works out fantastic. You can get in here, you can play with the samples. It's fantastic. You can also get in here and just get the matte if you want, so that you can kind of play with the levels, firm up the matte in places, because there are going to be some places where it might get, you know, like in here, it's a little thin. So you could play with them, you know, drop the levels on it real quick. Firm that up just a touch. Boom. Now you have a really, really solid matte. You could use that as an alpha matte or a luma matte, or yeah, rather a luma matte to throw it on top of her. You're going to get a good one either way. So that's going to save you time. Where it falls down is when it tries to do other stuff. So like one thing it does is that you can do like a basic key with it. They even say, you know, it's there because we could write it. I watched a tutorial how to use this thing. They essentially said, don't use it for fancy keys. If you need something quick, use it, but there are better tools for it. Don't bother. The other one, and I'll be honest with you, I couldn't get this to work, was background. So the idea was that if you have a shot, for example, she walks out of it and you still have a clean plate, you can set a clean plate layer and it will use that to analyze and take her out. I had a video of my kid running back and forth outside. See if I still have it on here. I don't. Let's see if I grab it real quick from my, yeah, right here. So we're going to try to recreate it real quick. Okay, so this is him. It rained here yesterday and he never gets to rain. He wanted to play in muddy puddles. So he went back, but it was also 59 degrees here and he didn't want to play in muddy puddles when it was 59 degrees. So he would run out, he'd jump around 3 or 4 times and then he'd stop. So what we're going to do is first we're going to create our clean plate layer. So we're duplicating it and we're working in the bottom layer currently. What we're going to do is we're going to layer and we're going to time freeze frame. Okay, so now there's our clean plate. It doesn't have to be perfect for what we're trying to do. I mean, you know, in this case, I was just wanting to see if it works, and I found that it does not. But I want to show you how you do it. So it should take out everything that is similar fairly across the board, so that when he's jumping up and down, he should be cut out. So we're going to get rid of this. Yeah. Goodbye green screen. All right, and we're going to come over here to background and change it to background, and then set our layer and set effects and masks. And like it should get rid of stuff, but it just doesn't. If you play with you can start to get rid of some things if you play with the samples. And that also happens a few times with this one. I couldn't, but even when it was like functioning, I couldn't really get a great thing. Like I could change it. That's about this is the most I've gotten. It would get rid of the matte. It would get rid of this stuff, but I actually had a lot better luck with just using experimental mode, which is auto mask. You know, you're already getting something better here. And if you turn up samples, you can usually get, even better. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. Generic, you also can get into human, portrait, and webcams. So let's see, where did I find? I had some. Yeah, this was a good example. So here we've got human. And just to show what we did, we've got her. And because I was thinking, I was like, what do we shoot a lot that might need a different background, and Zoom situations where people didn't clean up, you know, if you have that kind of stuff, or even just talking head interviews. A lot of times I know when I would do talking heads, they'd say, change the background. I'd say, why? They said, because you're no good at lighting in reality. And I said, that was mean and hurtful. And they said, too bad. So I'd have to change the background. When doing so, you know, you just come in, goodbye green screen. And then you change it to auto mask and you get a pretty good thing. You're up it a little bit, you get 5 samples. That's no good. So what am I going to do? You're going to change to human. Boom. And it's pretty good. You know, I might come in here, her hands are disappearing, so that, you know, one, you could with where they are, you could easily firm that up with just like a mask. That doesn't seem to be helping. So then we change to portrait. Anything, you get a little stuff here. You know, you got to tweak it. It's not perfect by any means. You know, and that was one thing I said was like with the AI stuff, particularly in After Effects, you are kind of beholden to what it is at the time, and it's going to work great on some things. And it's going to be a great start for other things. So if I were doing this, I would probably use human. I would come in and just matte her. You know, I would probably use this, like I said, throw a levels on it and use it as a Luma matte. With the levels, you'd be able to firm up her hands a little bit. But even doing that, it's going to save you an afternoon, like no, without a doubt. But yeah, I can't in good conscience suggest using their background now. I like made it. I'm happy I was able to make that dramatic.
How does it compare to RotoBrush 2?
RotoBrush 2 is more likely to work, but it is much slower. You know, this, I mean, as you're seeing, like the great thing about Goodbye Green Screen, and I think that, and the one reason I would say that this is something that I might recommend is because as it gets better, it's going to get better. This is also the one that I'll go ahead and throw up there. Like this one and the next one are the two that they completely overhauled in this user interface. So some of it's me, you know, it's still me kind of figuring out where things were that were there moments ago. But I think that RotoBrush, you could easily pick out these people, no problem. But you wouldn't be able to get this level of cutout in 2 clicks. So it's, you know, it comes down to very much so like what works in these situations. And I think that, you know, if I were really cranking on the samples, like that's one thing that we're kind of losing here is the more you up the samples, the better it's going to be. But the more we up the samples, the higher likelihood that it's going to kind of start breaking up. So I'm trying to, you know, be kind to that. So yeah, I think it's got situations that it's good. I was going to see if there was any other shots that I wanted to pick out for that. Oh, yeah, there was another. This one was one that I thought was kind of fun. for the, not for the green screen, but we might try it with that one too. So we got the, oh, and then we can, let's see how it does with the green screen. But this one I expect is going to be a bit of a problem because there is so much similarity between the background and the skin tones, but it's actually not too bad. Can start bringing some stuff in. Oh yeah, there was one more place that I wanted to say that it completely falls down. And that is in skin tones. Whether or not they meant it to be, I'm sure they didn't, but it is not great for darker skin tones. To the extent that Goodbye Green Screen, apply it, come in here, auto mask, and it's hard to maintain. So like, I don't know if it's coming through, but the faces are pretty, they're actually holding up a little better than they were earlier, but they're still pretty transparent just in their just in the face area, even under human. So I would just be mindful that, you know, in this case, it's good because it's set more of a webcam, but the more movement and stuff you kind of get, you know, it is what it is. Okay, so then my favorite, and this is the one that I think is the one that could totally, this is good, is depth scanner. Okay. It's also a little bit more esoteric. So shocker. I like the esoteric weird thing. So what we got here, we got a cityscape. And I know that we've all been asked to make those like B-roll videos that you're like, anybody can make this. The guy down the street has access to the same B-roll because, you know, the budget is allowing for me to go to Envato Elements or some other mass stock site. You know, they're using story blocks or whatever. And we all, it's how do I make it interesting? I can't tell you how to make it interesting, but this is so what we do, we take depth scanner. So what depth scanner does is it creates a depth map out of the image. Depth maps are typically used in 3D software. Cinema 4D, you can export depth maps. Any 3D software, you can export depth maps. But what can you do with it? You can use that to define areas of the screen. So the first thing that I saw that I thought was really cool, without even really using the depth, was slicing. So slicing lets you kind of pick a point in of depth. Let's see. Where we find it. Oh, it's chugging along. Hold up. There we go. Okay. So this one is also the most intensive, but what it does is it's cutting us off at a depth. So let's see if I can just scan. Let's just take it back this way. Okay, so we're going to set keyframe here. Set, and let's just make this 5 seconds because ain't nobody got time for this whole shebang. I'll show you what the power of slicing is. Sounds like I'm trying to sell you a knife at the fair. Take it and put it at 0. I'll put it all the way over at 100. 100. Thank you. Okay. So now what that does is I've just gotten rid of the elements that show it as transparent. It should show up at any moment. I'm going to try that. I might have done them backward. There we go. I did them backward. So it's going to give you a kind of LiDAR scan. If I would have done it more thinly, it would do a LiDAR scan, but this is just kind of showing different things at different depths. So you can do this cool kind of duplicate it, get rid of depth scanner, and then just throw an add. And turn this down to half in hopes it goes a little quicker. And now you can show your clients taking over the city because it's going through in and it, instead of just throwing it as a mask, it's doing so. And this one's a little chunky because I've got it set to no detail enhancement, but if we can bring it in here to small, it's gonna chunk up the system. But, and in lieu of being able to completely show everything, I'm actually going to pull up their video as well, just in case I'm not able to get it to do its thing as it does. All of these things are easily done, and I was able to replicate all of them, and I'm more than happy to maybe create a video where they happen. But it's a lot of this kind of stuff. So you can go in and creates the depth map. You can do easily control the depth of field of shots. You can tie those depth colors to different things. That's what we're creating right now, but it's being extremely slow. You can use things to write on the city via depth. One of the church there, still doing it. Yeah, I'm gonna check the chat while we're chilling just to see what's going down. Yeah, so all of Blaze is for Windows only. Currently, they're working on getting some Mac pieces together, but nothing yet on that end. It's also really useful for, you can create a lot of like 3D shots for this. You'd want to do some cleanup because you'll see some edges down here, but all right, I'm going to go ahead and restart After Effects because it seems to have tanked my whole thing. So.
One thing I'll say about like the goodbye green screen while you're doing that is, I mean, I think you brought up a good point that it's something that, is not going to work in every single situation, but it is something that will work in certain situations, and having more than one tool in your toolbox is always a good thing. And if it's something that you think you could use from time to time for different projects, and it there might be instances where it works perfect for the footage that you're working on, and it's going to pay for itself that one time, it's worth having. I mean, I've got 3 different keyers and compositors, on my system, and it's nice having the options. Sometimes one will do the job, and if not, I can go to the next level, and if that doesn't get it right, I can go to the 3rd level, but one of those is going to do the job. And so yeah, I mean, to me, it's like that almost seems kind of worth the buy, just on those instances where it's like, yeah, you need it and you can drop it on, and if it works, great, boom, I'm done, I'm moving on. And if it doesn't, okay, well, we're going to roto brush. So, because what was the cost on Goodbye Green Screen? Like $50?
Yeah, I think it was $50.
I mean,
and I will say, and that's another problem of it, is I actually have a project that it worked on and it totally paid for itself. And when I can share that project, I will. It should be a couple weeks, but like I can't at the moment. Not because it's an awesome project, but just because they told me I can't. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. It is what
those
it is.
NDA things.
Yeah, but it's just a person, it's essentially a person walking into an office, and it just worked really well. I will say that, all of them that I've done, a little bit of tweaking is necessary. Wow, I really did a number on this. A little bit of tweaking is necessary, but it was still like, I'm a big proponent of roto brush. I think that roto brush is fantastic if you have a lot of hair. If you're masking out like a tiger, go to roto brush. Actually, in a class that I taught, I did a whole lesson where you take a tiger and you use roto brush to get rid of the background on a tiger. It's awesome. But when it comes to harder edges or things that are moving around a lot more, like it's okay. It's okay. It's also, like, I will say, roto brush sucks at 4K. If you've ever tried to use roto brush on 4K footage, like I am still waiting for a shot that I started in 2018 on RotoBrush 4K. Even RotoBrush 2 is bad on 4K. This stuff, provided that you're not trying to show people on Zoom, is actually really quick. I know that's kind of an empty thing to say because you're like, says that guy, but I promise it's actually relatively quick. Whatever I just tried to do is now using 80% of my memory, and After Effects is still jammed. So
yeah, just to throw this in there, I was getting weird error messages tonight from Zoom that I've never gotten before, and I don't know how many of these we've done. So I don't know if something in Zoom is changed to where it's leveraging more GPU than it has in the past. But yeah, I don't know. It was weird for me tonight to get these weird warning messages. I'm like, I've never gotten these before. And how many of these have we done?
Yeah. And I was actually running it on my laptop, which is not as good of a system as this one. And it was totally running fine. You know, I actually, the other project I did ran it on a laptop that had I mean, it's not a bad laptop, but it was, you know, it's got 13070 in it and it's maxed out at 64 gigs of RAM. So it's good, but it's not my, you know, my main system, and it totally handled it with no problem. But I think to show anything else on that aspect, I might need to restart. But that said, there was one more piece that I was going to mention, and I showed this a while back, and I don't remember if we actually have. Oh, finally, there was a product called Lockdown, and I've already shown it once, so I don't want to go into a whole thing on it. But since it is AI in After Effects, I did want to at least mention it. It's also available for DaVinci Resolve, not in Premiere. But you know, whatever. And it's one of those that if you do it, then it's exactly what you need. And it is, yeah, this is the intro to it. The reason I wouldn't be showing it right now is because it's not particularly fast or good to, it's never going to be noted for how quick it is. It's slow, it's chunky, and it's pretty difficult to just kind of get it to go the first time. But it's easily paid for itself because it creates, you essentially can apply it, and it's great for makeup. It's great for changing, you know, shirts on things. What it does is it analyzes your footage, figures out the shape of the element.
I think you need to share your screen, dude.
Oh yeah, that would be helpful. I would say all kinds of cool stuff. Just one of those days. I dare say about that. Use profit. Okay. Yeah. So what it does is it takes the imagery and it analyzes it to figure out how the elements are moving in that, what the surfaces are doing, and then you create a plate to put on top of it, and it puts that there. So I used it. The project that I used it for was a company that makes butter. Thought that they had dirty cows, and they wanted me to clean their cows for them. So I made a bunch of the sides of cows. I analyzed their sides, and there you can see you can just kind of paint it out. Get rid of tattoos, get rid of, you know, you can apply tattoos, and it's really good at warping the elements. And it's an easy tool to use. They actually walk you through it very well, but it's like an 8-step process, and it's extremely intensive on your processor. So like it's a tough one to be sure. But yeah, it analyzes it, it figures out the shape of the piece, and then you can apply art to that geometry, and it comes out really nicely. So and I showed it a couple years ago when it first came out, and it's just gotten better since then. But yeah, I just did want to touch on that since, you know, since we were talking AI and After Effects. So.
All right,
guys, do Scale Up and was it Goodbye Green Screen? Do they work on Mac?
Scale Up, I believe, does. Right now, Goodbye Green Screen does not. That said, it sounds like they're actually really close, but I know a lot of companies that have said that they're really close to getting a PC version of stuff, and there have been 3 presidents since then, so I don't know.
Okay, thanks.
But yeah, I think Scale Up does.
All right, everybody. Well, that is it for tonight's meeting. Thank you for coming out. Next month we will be back. I forget what the topic's going to be, but I'll let you know as soon as I look at my notes for next month. But to all the new people, thank you so much for coming out. We really appreciate having you here. We meet on the 3rd Wednesdays of the month, usually around 6:30 or so. And hopefully we can, we'll see you next month. I see a comment, can we do intros next time? Yeah, we could do that. We don't normally do that. But you know what? Even next time, if you're here, we will do that. I promise you. So show up next month and we'll do introductions all the way around. But for real quick introductions, I'm Eric Addison. I run 100 Acre Films. And when I'm not doing that, I run this user group with DJ. And when I'm not doing that, I'm managing my 5-year-old twins. And
Yikes.
DJ, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
I'm DJ. I don't run 100 Acre Films. I run Summit Filmworks. as you can see by that and by this awesome mug. And I also crash After Effects a lot. So yeah, that's me. And I have a 4-year-old who's awesome, and he's downstairs eating pasta and watching Spider-Man. So that's what I'm going to be doing in 5 minutes.
Very nice. But yes, next time we can do a little bit of an introduction from everybody in the group here. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for coming out. I hope you got something out of it. I will have the meeting posted up on YouTube tomorrow. I believe DJ put in the chat pod, the YouTube channel link. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So you can, and if you didn't see it there, you can go to YouTube and just look up San Diego Premiere Pro User Group, and you can find meetings, past meetings, going back for, I don't know, since like 2000 or what, 2020, really, since the whole pandemic started. So even a little before that. So anyway, see you next month. Take care, everyone.